Hello students, this is lecture 3 of Railway and Bridge Engineering. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the permanent way. Rail, sleeper, ballast, subgrade and fasteners. These are components of permanent way. So in this lecture, we will study about the first component of permanent way, that is the rail. So mostly all of you must have seen the rails. Okay, so rail is nothing but considered as a steel girder. We can say the girder means a beam. So insert the rails on the track that can be considered as steel beam for the purpose of carrying axial loads of the train. Okay, so these are placed end to end to provide continuous and level surface for the trains to move. So generally in case of rails, this is one rail and this is another rail. So we generally make the connection between these two rails, then this is another rail, then we make the connection between these two rails. So in this way we provide the rails in the railway track for the continuous and level surface. Okay, so these are placed end to end to provide continuous and level surface for the trains to move. And generally rails are made of high carbon steel to withstand wear and tear. Okay, to resist wear and tear, rails are made up of high carbon steel. The next is function of rail. So in this content we will see what are the roles of rail in case of railway track. So the first point is to provide continuous and level surface for the movement of train. Then to provide a smooth pathway so that friction between rail and wheel become less. That means rails provide a hard, smooth and unchanging surface for passage of heavy moving loads with a minimum friction between the steel rails and the steel wheels of the train. Okay, then the next point is transferring the load into the sleeper. That means generally rails transmit the loads to sleepers and consequently reduce pressure on ballast and formation below. Okay, the next is to bear the stresses developed in the track due to temperature changes and loading patterns, and to resist braking forces caused due to stoppage of trains. That means rails bear the stresses developed due to heavy vertical loads of train and the lateral loads generally due to the wind load, and braking forces due to the sudden brake and start of the trains, and the thermal stresses. Thermal stresses means due to the temperature change there is expansion and contraction of the rails, so that creates a stress within the rails, so that is thermal stress. So rails bear the stresses developed due to heavy vertical loads of train, lateral load and braking forces and thermal stresses. So these are some functions of rail. Okay, these are roles of rail in case of railway track. The next is requirements of an ideal rail. Okay, so the first point is the section of the rail should be such that the load of wheel is transferred to the sleepers without exceeding the permissible stresses. That means the load that is coming on the rail should be less than that of the stress that is exerted by the rail. Okay, means the external load should be less than that of the permissible stress of the rail. Okay, the next is the section of the rail should be able to withstand the lateral forces caused due to the fast moving trains. That means rails should be capable of withstanding lateral forces. Okay, generally lateral forces is caused due to the wind, due to wind, then due to the fast moving trains. Okay, so the rails should be capable of withstanding this type of lateral forces. So for this, large width of head and foot is required. If the width of head and foot of the rail section will large, then it will provide high lateral stiffness. Okay, so to resist the lateral forces, generally the width of the head and foot should be large, for which it can give the high lateral stiffness to resist the lateral force. Okay, then the next point is the center of gravity of the rail section should preferably coincide the center of the height of the rail, so that maximum tensile and compressive stresses are nearly equal. That means this is a rail section. Okay, this is a rail section and this is the height of the rail. Okay, so the center of this height may be at this point. Okay, maybe at this center point. Okay, so what it is saying that the center of gravity of the rail section, so the CG of this rail section should lie at the center of the height of the section. Okay, so the center of gravity of the rail section must lie approximately at the mid height, so that the maximum tensile and compressive stresses are equal. Okay, if the CG and the center of the height will lie at one point, then the compressive stress and the tensile stress that is caused by the load that is coming from the wheel of that is coming from the train, then that tensile stress and compressive stress will be same. For that, the center of gravity of the rail section should coincide the center of height of the rail. Okay, then next requirement is the wave of rail section should be such that it can safely bear the vertical load without buckling. That means wave of rails should be sufficiently thick. Okay, so wave of rails should be sufficiently thick to bear the load coming on it and should provide adequate flexural rigidity. Okay, so wave of rail should sufficiently thick, then only it can bear the vertical load without buckling. Okay, if the wave of the rail section will thin, then it can't bear the vertical load and it will fail by buckling. Okay, so the wave of the rail should be thick so that it can bear the vertical load without buckling or without any failure. Okay, the next point is the head of the rail should be sufficiently thick for adequate margin of vertical wear. Okay, that means the head must be sufficiently deep. Okay, the head, this is a rail section. Okay, this is a rail section. This is the head of rail section. This is the foot of the rail section, and this is the wave of rail section. Okay, so this head of the rail section must be sufficiently deep. That means must be sufficiently thick. Okay, so must be sufficiently deep to allow for an adequate margin of vertical wear. Okay, and the wearing surface of this head should be hard. Okay, should be hard. So to resist the wear and tear, this head part will should sufficiently deep. Okay, the thickness should be more so that it can resist the adequate or the limiting value of the wear. Okay, and this surface of the head should be hard. Okay, then the next point is the foot of rail should provide sufficient bearing area. Okay, that means the foot should be wide enough so that the rails are stable against overturning. Okay, especially on curves. Okay, so the foot of the rail section, this is the head, this is the foot of the rail section. So this foot of rail section should be wide. Okay, this is the foot, this foot of rail section should be wide so that rails are stable against overturning, especially in case of curves. Okay, the next point is the section of the rails should be such that the ends of two adjacent rails can be efficiently jointed with a pair of fish plates. Okay, so the bottom of the head and the top of the foot of rails should be so shaped as to enable the fish plates to transmit the vertical load efficiently from the head to the foot at rail joint. Okay, that means the shape of the head and foot should be such that the rail will enable the fish plates to transmit the vertical load efficiently from the head to the foot at the rail joints. Okay, that means fish plate means this is a rail section. Okay, this is a rail section and this is another rail section. So generally two rail sections are joined by the fish plates in this way. Okay, by fish plates and fish bolts. Okay, so the head, this is the head and this is the foot. Okay, so the shape of the head and foot should be such that it will enable this fish plate to transmit the vertical load efficiently from the foot to from head to foot through the wave. Okay, so their shape should be such that the fish plate will help the load to transmit the load from the head to the foot through the wave efficiently. Okay, so these are some requirements of the rail. The next is types of rail section. Okay, so the three types of rail sections which have been tried so far for the construction of railway track are double headed rails, bull headed rails and flat footed rails. Okay, so first we will discuss about the double headed rail. So in case of double headed rail, you can see this is the head, this is the foot and this is the wave. Okay, so this is a double headed rail. So you can see in case of double headed rail, the thickness of the head and the thickness of the foot is same. Okay, so the thickness of the head and foot is same. Okay, so the idea behind using of these rails was that when the head has worn out in course of time, the rail can be inverted and reused. That means let this rail is used. Okay, let this rail is used now. Okay, so if the if this head of the rail section will worn out in course of time. That means if there will be some wear and tear, okay, if there will be some wear and tear and it will worn out, then we can invert this rail section. Okay, we can invert this rail. Okay, we can invert this rail. Then we can use this foot, okay, this foot as the head. Okay, so when we invert the rail, then the foot will work as head and the head will work was foot. Okay, so this is the reason or idea behind using of these rails, so that when the head will worn out, we will invert the rail and we can use the foot as the head. Okay, we can use the foot as the head, but experience showed that such marks are formed in lower foot, due to which smooth running over that surface at the top was impossible. That means, but in actual practice, what happens in actual practice, due to the heavy moving load, okay, due to the heavy moving load, there some marks due to the stress in the rails, some marks are formed in case of this foot of the rail. Okay, due to the stress in the rail, some marks are formed in the foot of the rail. Okay, so when we invert this rail to use this foot as head, due to the presence of the marks, it doesn't give the smooth running surface. Okay, it doesn't give smooth running surface, for which it was no longer used. Okay. So to overcome that, we used bull-headed rails. So the next evolution was that of a bull-headed rail, in which the head was made a little thicker and stronger than the lower part by adding more metal to it. You can see here, this is a cross section of the bull-headed rail. So this is the head. Okay, this is the head of the rail, this is the foot of the rail, and this is the wave of the rail. So here you can see the thickness of the head is more than that of the thickness of the foot, whereas in case of double-headed rail, the thickness of both foot and head are same. But in case of bull-headed rail, by adding more material to the head, the thickness of the head has made a little thicker and stronger than that of the foot. Okay, so that even after wear, it can withstand the stresses. Okay, so the reason behind increasing the thickness of the head of the bull-headed rail is, even after the wear, it can withstand the stresses. Okay, it can bear the stresses in a better way. So this is the main purpose of using bull-headed rails. But the bull-headed rails were joined to the sleepers by the help of the chair and keys. Okay, so to join the bull-headed rails to the sleeper, the chair and keys were required. Okay, in that case, so in this case, the chair and keys increased the additional cost. Okay, so as they required additional cost for the iron chairs and they required heavy maintenance cost, so to overcome that, now we are using the flat footed rails. Okay, in India, flat footed rails are most commonly used now. Okay, so in case of flat footed rail, you can see here the width of the foot. Okay, this is the foot, this is the head. Okay, the width of the foot is large. Okay, the width of the foot is large as compared to the double headed rail and bull headed rail. But it was originally thought that the flat footed rails could be fixed to sleepers directly and would eliminate the need for chairs and keys which are required for the bull headed rails. Okay, so it was originally thought that the flat footed rails can be fixed or can be joined to the sleepers directly, and in this way we can eliminate the need of chairs and keys which required generally for the bull headed rails. But however, it was observed that the heavy train loads caused the foot of the rail to sink into the sleeper. Okay, so when we had not given any chair and keys between the bull headed rail, between the flat footed rail and sleeper, then it was observed that due to the heavy train loads, it is caused the foot of the rail to sink into the sleeper and making the connection loose. Okay, so to overcome that, steel bearing plates were introduced between the sleeper and the rail at rail joints and other important places. Okay, so to overcome that, now we are using bearing plates between the rail and the sleeper. Here you can see this is the rail, and this rail is joined with the sleeper by the bearing plate. Okay, this is the bearing plate. Okay, so now we are using the flat footed rails. Then next is length of rail. Okay, so in India for the broad gauge, the length of one rail is 12.80 meter. Okay, for the broad gauge, the length of one rail. Okay, we are talking about the length of one rail only. Okay, the length of one rail is 12.80 meter, which we can take as 13 meter. Okay, which we generally take as 13 meter. And in case of meter gauge, the length of one rail is 11.89 meter. Okay, 11.89 meter, which we generally take as 12 meter. So in case of broad gauge, the length of one rail is 13 meter, and in case of meter gauge, the length of one rail is 12 meter. The next point about the length of rail is the rails of larger length are preferred to smaller length of rails because they give more strength and economy for a railway track. Okay, so if we use the larger length of rails, then obviously there will be less number of joint. Okay, if we use the smaller length of rails, then obviously the number of joint will be more. Okay, so as we know, the weakest point of a structure that I have discussed in case of steel structure, the weakest part of a structure is the connection or the joint. So here also the weakest point of a track is the joint between the two rails. Okay, so in case of a railway track, the weakest point is the joint between the two rails. So lesser the number of joints, lesser would be the number of fish plates, and this would lead to lesser maintenance cost. Okay, so I am repeating, lesser the number of joints, lesser would be the number of fixed plates, and fish bowls, and this would lead to lesser maintenance cost, smoother running of trains, and more comfort to the passengers. Okay, so if we use larger length of rails, then there will be lesser number of joints, and for that lesser would be the number of fish plates and fish bowls, which decreases the maintenance cost, and which increases the cost of fasteners, and which provides smoother running of trains and more comfort to the passengers. Okay, so if more number of joints will there, if we will use smaller length of rails, then there will be more number of joints. So the more number of joints would increase wear and tear of the vehicle compartments, okay, of the vehicle compartments, including fuel, okay, including fuels. Okay, so it is better to use the rails of larger length. Okay, so the rails of larger length are preferred to smaller length of rails, okay, because they give more strength and economy for a railway track. Okay, so though the long length of the rail is desired, okay, though the long length of the rail is desired, we can't increase the length of the rail according to our wish. Okay, we can't increase the length of the rail, or we can't give the length of the rail according to our wish. Okay, so there are some limitation for the length of the rail. Okay, so there are some factors which governs the length of the rail. So these are some factors which restrict the length of the rail, which governs the length of rail. Okay, so the first point is ease to manufacturing, means the length of the rail should be such that it will be easy to manufacture. Okay, then the next is cost. Okay, so the length of rail is so chosen that the manufacturing cost is most reasonable. The next is lack of transportation facility. That means the length of rail depends upon the transportation facilities. So only those lengths of rail are possible which can be transported by longest wagons available on the railway. So the length of rail depends upon the length of the wagon. Okay, it depends upon the length of the wagon. Okay, the next is lifting and handling facility. That means to some extent the length is also limited by the facilities of lifting and handling during the loading and unloading of wagon. Okay, so here length of the rail depends upon the equipments, or depends upon the machines which are used. Okay, here it depends upon the capacity of the machines or equipments which are used for the lifting, handling and during the loading and unloading of wagons. Okay, so it depends upon the capacity of the equipments or machines, okay, which are used in this purpose. The next is the expansion gap requirement. Okay, so more the length of rail, more will be the gap required for expansion of rail due to temperature. But however, the expansion is not proportional to gap, because fastenings check the movement of rails. So expansion gap is not a limiting factor for the length of rails, but it affects to some extent. So the expansion gap is affecting the length of rail to some extent. Okay, it is not a serious limiting factor. Okay, so that much all about today's class. In the next lecture we will study the rest contents of the rail. Thank you.